Blast me to Bermuda. It's time for a Mad Merlin's painting video. Hi folks, Merlin here from Mad Merlin's, bringing you a painting tutorial video. So a while ago, a couple of months now I think, Andy over at Mediocre Hobbies painted Castellan Crow for his Space Marine Heroes collection. He has pretty much every Space Marine character. As like me, he's a sucker for painting a cool looking character. And while he admitted he did mess up his initial method for painting it, I took what I learned from that video, which was some actual very handy hints, and put it into practice over a course of about 20 models. And I think I've perfected a pretty good Grey Knight method for me to show to you guys. So that's what I'm going to do here today. I got a Justicar for my Terminator squad sat over on my paint desk there, waiting to be painted. But before we dive into that, don't forget to, of course, like this video if you are enjoying the content, and if you are, please consider subscribing to the channel if you haven't already. Also, any thanks goes out to those who support the channel, especially any Patreons. There is links for that in the video description down below. But until then, let's get painting a Grey Knight Justicar. So this is the model I'll be painting. It is the Justicar for my Terminator squad, using a very sort of heroic T-shape pose, with his hammer out to one side and firing off rounds from his Stormbolter with the other arm. Pretty nicely detailed model. I really love these Grey Knights, even if they are a little on the small side compared to the newer Terminators from Leviathan. But they still have a nice uniqueness to them that really emphasizes they are a different breed of Space Marine. So I've got this guy already primed with Colour Forge's Steel Forge Silver, which is apparently their match for Lead Belcher, but I find it actually matches Iron Hand Steel just a tad better. So we're going to give a coat of Iron Hand Steel first, before we move on to our next paints. So using a nice large brush, we're going to give a coat of Iron Hand Steel all over the model, where we have the metal and the silver and the gold details. Alright, with the Iron Hands Steel dry, we're ready for the next stage, and that is to use a mixture of 1 part Talazar Blue to 6 parts Lamy Medium. Now, Talazar Blue is a contrast paint, but we use Lamy Medium so we don't drastically change the colour of the actual paint. We want to still keep that nice, vibrant blue. Contrast Medium would turn it a little more pale, so using Lamy Medium, we keep that beautiful, rich blue that we can use to shade the model. So we're going to paint all over the model. I want to try and make the paint stretch as far as we can. Before loading up any more. If we can, we'll try to avoid any weapons, as we want to leave them the Iron Hand Steel. Now, Talazar Blue is a contrast paint, and so undiluted would be pretty strong and drown the silver. Filling it down with Lamy Medium means we can keep the strength of the blue, but we dilute it enough that it doesn't stain the armour too much. As you can see, we can still see the silver underneath. Talazar Blue contrast and Lamy Medium has dried now. As you can see, it's tinted the armour blue, but we can still see that silver just about breaking through. Now, the next paint we're going to be using in two different ways. We're going to use Iron Breaker here, and the first way to use it is to dry brush all over the model. So I've got my large dry brush here, loaded it up with the Iron Breaker, and now to dry brush it all over the Grey Knight, making sure we pick out any of the raised edges, especially on the text on the shoulder pads, as well as the flat surfaces. With the dry brush of Iron Breaker done, we can see our Grey Knight now looks a little bit more shiny. We'll come back to the Iron Breaker second method in just a bit, but first we're going to start blocking in some other colours, and we'll start with a couple of contrast paints. So first we're going to use Snakebite Leather, and this is actually going to be used to pick out all the gold details. So I've got a medium layer brush here, and we're going to be using it just to pick out any areas we want to be gold. So all the text, any Terminator honours, like on his loincloth here, and on his belt buckle. Any of the gold skulls. And again, all that text. So just work your way around your model, taking your time, blocking in all these areas, being as neat as you can. But don't worry, when we come back to that Iron Breaker, we'll be tidying up any mistakes we make. So there we go, we've got all the gold picked out with the Snakebite Leather. You see it gives it a nice aged sort of gold, which is pretty cool, perfect for these guys. I've even got all the details and raised emblems on the weapon there, the ammo in the clip, as well as the icon on the gun. So the next detail we're going to be using is another contrast paint, and that is Black Legion. We're going to be picking out a lot of the undersuit and weapon casings. So again, got a medium layer brush. We're loading up with some of the Black Legion, and we're going to just paint over areas like the gun casing, the joints in the armor, and again, if you get any black on areas we don't want, we'll be touching up with our Iron Breaker later anyway. And we'll pick out as well the hafts of the weapons and the grips of the weapons with this colour. And even joints here on the back of the legs as well. That's the black all done. As you can see, picked out all those joints in the armour, the cables on the arms there, casing on the bolt gun. I even started picking out the black areas on his personal heraldry, on his shoulder pad and tilt plate. So the next colour we're going to use is Mephiston Red. We're going to pick out all the books, areas of personal heraldry, and we'll do the inside of the loincloth as well. So again, I'll be using my medium layer brush, as a lot of the areas we got to reach are fairly small, but we got all the books around the model. So the one on his leg here, pick out that one, got the one on his chest. If you get the full book, it doesn't matter, we can easily coat over with the next paint. But being careful at least allows us to avoid spilling too much onto that silver. And his personal heraldry is going to be red and black. So we'll pick out the red parts as well. Finally then, we got the back of the loincloth to do, as well as the smooth cables on his arms and on the hammer. With the red dry, as you can see, I've picked out all the books, including the one on his hip there, as well as the smooth cables and the underside of the loincloth. So our next colour is going to pick out all the parchment as well as the front of the loincloth with Rackhar flesh. You may need 2 layers to go over the silver and the red. So you got all the parchment on the book chapter symbols scattered around the model. We're going to pick out the front of the loincloth and the purity seal coming off the book there as well. Also check for any scroll work like the one on his leg here. Pick that out with Rackhar flesh as well. So there we have all the Rackhar flesh details done. As you can see, I've got all the purity seals picked out, all the books, scrolls, the loincloth there, as well as the pages on the book on his hip, and even the purity seal up on his shoulder. Now the last colour we got to add before we go back to that iron breaker is Screamer Pink, and this is just to pick out all the waxes on those purity seals. So we got the 2 on his chest here. One on the book. And the one up on his shoulder. With the Screamer Pink details done, and any tidy ups you need to do, like I've had to pick out a few of the edges of the books with red again. The last thing to do before silver is to apply a shade of Nuln Oil to all those areas we've just picked out. So we'll just apply it all over the Rackhar flesh, any silver details that we've avoided, such as the gun casing, the actual gun mechanism here, all over the Rackhar flesh, Mephiston red, and the Screamer Pink details as well. With the Nuln Oil dry, we now have a nearly completed Grey Knight Justicar. So we just have a couple more colours to apply. So we're going back to our iron breaker now, and this time we're going to be layering it up over the armour panels. So we'll start around here on the butt plate. As there's a nice large flat area, we can show, just going to gently layer up over that armour panel. Same here on the legs, trying to leave any recessed areas blue. So we'll just work our way around, picking out the higher plates. We can leave the recesses here on the legs, just picking out these raised ridges with the iron breaker. And we can use this as well to tidy up areas where we've overspilled of other colours, like around this parchment. And on areas such as on my model here, I got a bit of black and red on the elbows, so we'll layer up over that. We may need to give a couple of coats of this to fully cover over the blue, but the good thing is it's a translucent paint anyway, so we get to see that blue sheen through it. There we have it, that true silver armour of the Grey Knights is almost complete. There's just one last thing we can do to really finish it off. And that's to give an edge highlight to some select armour panels with Stormhost Silver. So what we'll do, we'll turn it around, we'll start on the back here, which is a pretty prominent edge we can catch with the tip of our brush. Same here for raised shoulder guard trim. Pick out these little flare pieces on the leg, top of the knee there as well. And even sharp points on his helmet. The good thing with Stormhost Silver is it's pretty close to the Ironbreaker in colour, so it's pretty subtle and really gives an extra punch to the armour when the light catches it. So just take your time working around the model, getting the most raised corners you can. Don't forget to also pick out the silver on his weapons, including the Stormbolter there as well. There we have it, highlighted up, ready to smite some demons. You can of course finish off the model with some extra highlights on the red, the pink, the bone and cloth areas, but he looks fantastic as he is ready to lead the squad into glorious battle. One last little tip: if we've made a few mistakes, say on this foot here where we've kind of gone over into the recess, what we can do, we can use Talazar Blue with Lamy Medium again, this time a 1 to 16, so ignore that, it's 1 to 16, just to really heavily thin down the paint. Then we can drop it into the recesses, just to pick out and bring that blue tint back. All that's left to do is to base this guy to match the rest of your army, so I'm going to be putting down some Martian Iron Earth to tie him in with the rest of my Grey Knights force. But yeah, there he is. That's how I paint Grey Knight armour. So there we have it. That's how I paint Grey Knight power armor. And yeah, it's a really effective method. I've had a lot of good feedback about it in the photos I've posted on Facebook and on Instagram. So it's pretty handy, pretty simple, requires a lot of layering and possible reshading, but it gets a nice, fantastic end result. You can push the highlights a little bit more by giving a light dry brush to the lettering with Stormhost Silver, just to help bring up the shine a little bit more. But it's great to get your models up to a good tabletop standard with this method. You can of course opt out the additional edge highlight, but I find it pushes the model a little further. But there we go, that's it for this video. Let me know what you thought of this technique in the comment section down below. Also let me know what you'd like to see me paint next. I've got quite a few different methods on how to paint different armies. So drop a comment down below, let me know, and I'll see what I can do. So until next time, thank you all very much for watching, and I will see you later. Goodbye.